from the last three planning board meetings, December, January, and February. I had a chance to review December and January, and there were a couple of typos that I pointed out to Sarah. I think with those corrected, I had no problem with either of those 2 months, but I didn't get a chance to review February, so did board members have a chance to review?
Yeah, I haven't read February.
Okay.
Haven't been able to look at it.
Okay.
The other two are okay.
The other two, okay, George? Okay. All right, so then can I have a motion then to adopt the minutes from December and January?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so those two are approved. Okay, February. All right, the first item of business then is 2016-06 Camerota, 54 Jaffrey Court.
Hello,
Good evening.
my name is Sandra, I'm assuming you're actually.
Yes, well, you can take one of the microphones,
Okay.
yeah. And you can take it off the stand, too.
My name is Amanda Linhart. I'm the architect for Angelica and Michael Camerota. They just purchased the house at 54 Jaffrey Park. You probably had a chance to notice, to stop by. There was an existing sort of enclosed porch on the house when they purchased the house, and we were hoping to convert it into an enclosed mudroom. And when that was noticed on the plans, it was noticed that there was not any record of that porch being enclosed. So I went through the records and noticed that in a survey from '87, sure enough, it doesn't show up. But then in the recent assessment, it was here. And the owners prior to these new ones purchased the house around 20 years ago. So in my best estimate, it was probably enclosed sometime between 87 and 93, 94. So, if you can see in the picture, it's really this area with the window. This was already enclosed and that already was on the survey. This area with the window was the new enclosure. So it's 36 square feet of new enclosure that we're trying to legalize. So it's right here.
Right, it shows better down. At the
It shows
bottom.
better, yes. So better to see it. It's this area right here. So basically from this column to the end here, where the window is. So,
Any comments from any of the board members? No? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this matter? No, I think, well, I guess you do need a variance, though. Variance is required, so you'll have to go to the zoning board.
I had a question about that as well. So am I able to make the 22nd?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I
See
can make
Sarah,
that one?
yes.
Okay.
The denial letter tomorrow. or
Okay.
See Sarah tomorrow.
All right, as long as I can, if I can make it.
No,
for the
it's set up that
22nd.
way.
Okay, great.
All right, and Mary Ann, you have a resolution for this one?
Yeah, I did. Whereas in February 2016, Michael and Angelica Camerota applied for site plan approval to legalize an existing 36 square foot enclosed porch at their residence at 54 Jaffrey Court, which lies in the Village's View Preservation District. And whereas the existing house was built in 1860 and already exceeds the FAR requirement, the enclosed porch will exceed the FAR further, thereby requiring an area variance. Planning board held a public hearing on the application on March 3rd. The application was reviewed by Han Engineering, which had no substantive issues with the application. Wait a minute, it's today the second, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, I had the second and then I changed it to the third for some reason. Okay.
3-2.
You forgot the leap
that's
year.
fine.
Okay. Then the planning board, I'm assuming you're gonna find this when you vote, determined that the enclosed porch would not have any impact on the view of the Hudson River. The action is a type 2 action under secret. Resolved that the planning board grants the application for site plan approval of the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled Camerota Residence, subject to receiving a variance from the zoning board of appeals for FAR.
Can I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I can take these.
Thank you. Okay.
Wait a minute, you can get a copy of it.
Okay.
Because they've all got to sign it.
Oh, okay, all right.
I move the porch thing. Why don't you show them, just-
Oh, sure, yes. Yeah.
I don't think you should sign it, because you already know what it is. I would rather you film it because you weren't here for the public hearing part of it.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is 2016-04, Lyndon Theodore Casper, 51 Osceola Avenue.
Pat, I'll recuse from this.
Okay.
Good evening. We have filed plans for a small deck off our master bedroom with a stairway leading down toward.
Susan, could you just identify yourself for the record? Okay.
Speak into the microphone, it's for the dictation.
Sure. We had submitted plans for a small deck to be constructed off our master bedroom with a stairway leading down to the ground, so we would have access to an existing pool structure and also to have access to the outside in a small area. I understand that my architect has been in touch with the engineer and he can't be here tonight, so I'm here. And we understand that we need a variance in the minimum.
Yeah, we did confirm the quantity, the amount.
All right, so, were there any
There's revised plans in your folders.
these plans?
Yes.
The only difference is the zoning.
You just need to confirm the coverage.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Is there any comments from any of the board members?
So is this really 69.5 over?
Yes.
And he's asking for, how does that number, how does it?
Well, that's what I don't
I
understand.
think initially it used to get off the bat 4,800 square feet, but now they get a percentage of, which comes out to, I think it's around 2,400 square feet, and they have 4,083 proposed. So they're increasing at 105. They're still below what used to be the allowable, which was 4,800. So
Okay, it was one of those, you see the plan, you go, and then you see that, and you go, wait a second.
It's only 20,000 square foot lot in a 40,000 acre
It's
zone, that's
yeah,
why,
that's-
40,000 square foot.
It's a very small
Yeah,
addition.
yeah, no,
Okay, yes, no. Any other comments? Any comments from anyone in the public? No, well then, Mary Ann, do you have a resolution for this one?
Yes, in January 2016, Lyndon Ted Casper applied for site plan approval to construct a deck on their .4 acre lot at 51 Osceola Avenue, which is located in the 140 zoning district. Han Engineering reviewed the plans and in a memorandum dated February 2nd listed a number of issues with the site plan which were addressed in subsequent submissions, which Han found satisfactory. The proposed deck will increase lot coverage, which already exceeds the limits for the 140 zoning district and therefore requires a variance. The planning board held a public hearing on the application on February 3rd and March 2nd. The action is type 2 under SECR. Resolved that the planning board grants the application for site plan approval of the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled 51 Osceola Avenue, subject to correcting the zoning data table on the site plan and receiving a variance from the zoning board of appeals for coverage. I understand that it was already corrected, but
The plan was already correct.
Yes.
I just,
Can I have a mo-
After the submission.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we just have to do the variance.
Yes, you'll have to go to the zoning board for the variance.
And that meeting is what?
22nd?
See Silence 1.
I'll. We'll be back on Monday.
The next item on the agenda is 2016-01, Kumar and Sass Street, 36 Northbrook Lane.
Should I turn these or is it all right?
Turn it, yeah, I don't think these generally-
You can take it out if you want. Away.
Good evening. I'm Craig Studer from Studer Design Associates for the applicant, Mr. and Mrs. Kumar. We were here 2 months ago with an application that was a little bit more aggressive than what we're showing now, where we had talked about in a building addition out the back, and just refreshing your memory, a building out addition out the back, a freeform swimming pool in this quadrant here, and a patio underneath the existing porch. There was an issue of documented and undocumented lot coverage. We went through and we put together a little report and came through on of what that coverage was. Originally, we would be asking for an FAR variance, lot coverage, and a swimming pool setback, because the swimming pool is required to be 20 feet, and in this zone, the building envelope is 15. With this newly revised plan, we are not asking for a swimming pool setback and we're a variance, and we're not asking for a variance for lot coverage because of the elimination of many of the items that we illustrated on sheet LA3 of the documents that were submitted. What we did on the calculations is we broke it out into the existing coverage that was documented, meaning what we mean by documented is the original application when the house was built. The second one was additional lot coverage that was undocumented. There were a few more walls, a larger patio, two-level patio. And then we were talking about the area of coverage that we're going to be reducing, eliminating, meaning pretty much all, other than one retaining wall, all of the undocumented walls and patios, and reducing a little bit here on the front walk and taking out some stairs on the building. And then what we're showing is the proposed. So we broke it up into different ways so you can see how we got to the lot coverage and what the issues were and are. Going back to the plan, the pool became a rectangle pool. It's no longer free form. We slid it back because the client decided not to do the addition. He is doing a renovation addition, but it's all within the existing structure of the house. Basically, and I will show you that, it's within the dormer system over the existing garage. Currently, that garage structure is 1.5 stories. And on this sheet, I think there's 11 by 17s that were submitted in your package. There is 3 dormers existing here on the front. That's going to be filled in as one, just fill in the void. And then on the back, there's existing 1 dormer. This would be more of a shed dormer continuing over a little bit. This house sits back, I'm going to refer now to the document that I gave you, which was really a report for the FAR. But it's an air photo of the site and the orientation of the site. The site is that flag lot that's toned in. It backs up on the Ardsley Country Club, and the large parcel, which I'm going to say formerly owned by Daniel Goldsmith, because I can't recall who the new owner is. This sits down lower from the road. Because it's a flag lot, you can't really see it from the road. There's a tax card for this lot submitted with this report that shows or illustrates a little photo, I believe, from the road, and you could barely see it in the way it sits. You really just see the second floor. So all the proposed site work happens in the back of the building. You would never see it. You might see it a little bit from the golf course, but you might see some of this infill, but it's very little impact. You would never see this from any of the adjacent properties. for the house.
Excuse me, those
Yes, sir.
skylights on the roof?
Yes, they are. The back of the building, there's like a lattice structure underneath the existing deck. That's going to be peeled off, and they're going to cut the foundation wall, put another door in, and a patio underneath that deck. And on the side, you know, looking here, you can see how the dormers would look, but it doesn't really, I mean, it became more of a shed dormer here in the front, and then this back, you see a little bit of the shed as well dying into the existing dormer. Landscaping, in accordance with the code, we need to provide the screening for the pool area. And we provide that minimum size is 6-foot evergreen screen or solid board fence. I think our minimum size is 7 foot. We have some sizable Norway spruce that we're putting over in here. And there's an issue with the tree removal, and that was mentioned in some of the engineering comments as well as the landscape architectural or planting review comments. We do have, and I don't recall what shape, I think it's on the demolition plan, a plant list or a tree removal list. It's on LA4. That talks about the sizes of the trees, and we even documented trees that are not regulated at this point because of the size of the caliper. But because they're on the survey, because we're removing them, we didn't want to remove them before. We're just coming in and saying, you know, what we're moving. And we stated, you know, what the trees were and the condition of the tree. In our opinion, all these trees that we are slating to remove are for the purpose of creating solar access to the pool area. This site, as I said, it sits low, is surrounded by large trees. It's a very wooded site. The trees, it's easier to see on the demolition plan. I guess I'll put this back up, my color plan, where they're documented as the tree removal through the X, also known, keyed in with the little octagon number 4. So there's some trees back here, which is a 5-inch caliber dogwood, which isn't doing well. Our tree replacement plan is because this is large trees, some of them not in perfect health or whatever else, but because we want to have the solar orientation, because there's larger canopy trees. One of the comments was, well, we're replacing them, yes, with 6 or 7 new trees, deciduous trees, but only one of them is a shade tree. We could make them all shade trees, but I don't think that they're going to do well because they're growing underneath the canopy of other existing trees and that they're going to be very thin. So what we propose are understory trees. I think we propose dogwood or emeline here, and we also have some cornice, the dogwoods, you know, in that area. So I think the quantity of trees and I think the quality of trees having more of a canopy, a staggered canopy or a layering effect will be much more aesthetic. The plant material is going to be much more healthier than if we just came in and we put canopy trees being oaks and maples that need full sun. I think I addressed everything. Oh, one other thing. We are still asking for the FAR variance. It doesn't go outside the existing building footprint, but it's in these areas that are shaded in on all the site plans, and it's also on the FAR calculations that we presented to you in our submission. I think it created a little confusion initially when we did our calculations because of the graphic here, but the actual calculation is down here. And we did calculate the 2-story space. We are asking for a variance because we are increasing, showing the areas here that are increasing. I think it's 160 square feet that we're adding because of the dormers, and now our floors changed. Now, the purpose of all this addition is not for the sole purpose of making the house bigger. It became an extended family. The gentleman that owns the house has his parents living there. The mother really needs as an accessibility problem. They decided, instead of having that addition out the back with the one bedroom on the first floor, we put an elevator within the building. The architect is figuring that all out, and that's why we're going into the dormer, so this almost becomes, you know, a master suite for her on the second floor. If there's any questions.
Any questions from any of the board members?
How many healthy trees are you taking down?
Well, quantity,
You know, I have some experience with having a great deal of difficulty getting approval to take a dead tree down. And you're
Yeah.
taking live trees down.
What was the condition? How many of them, what was the condition? I think you said you had a list on one of the plans.
yeah. On LA4, you can see it a little closer. We also said if it's regulated or not regulated. We're taking down 5 non-regulated trees, meaning they're under 6-inch caliber, they're 5-inch caliber. So the remaining trees that we're taking, if I A through L, what was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 trees, 5 of which are non-regulated, so let's say it's 8 trees, 7 trees.
And none of these trees are necessary to build anything.
Well, I think they are for the pool.
No, you could build a pool. You're talking about it's because of the solar heating aspect, not because you can't build anything. They're not in the footprint of the pool.
Well,
No, but it's
Or in the
dark in
path
that
to
area.
that. It's
Well,
really to
that-
create light for the pool.
Right.
Right.
Some of those trees.
isn't that the essence of the function of the pool? I mean, what are we're concerned
You
about?
didn't answer
Well,
the
no,
question.
he's just asking the question. He was making.
I'm not making
And
I'm
I-
asking a question.
I think there's a pine that's coming down on the corner here that's obviously not where, is in the thing. I'm not worried about the regulated pools, or trees, or non-regulated trees. But there's a 10-inch and a 12-inch and a 14-inch that are in the way of the pool. These are not in the building in the pool footprint.
When you say they're in the way of the pool,
Well,
oh, they're actually in the footprint of the pool.
or very close to it. And these are not in the footprint of the pool.
There are 2 oaks around the side of the house.
Yeah, I mean, it's where the pool equipment is, they're over in here. But the other ones are like right in here, so you're gonna be within 6 feet of the pool. But these over here that are kind of off to the corner. Now, as that sun moves through the sky, this is the east in the morning, the afternoon, noon, and then afternoon, it's coming in right here. So,
But it seems like it's not just those ones you talked about, 14. At least in your plan, you have a 24-inch, 30-inch, another 24-inch that you're getting rid of. So they're not,
2 of those are over in here.
correct.
I think the other, I'm not sure where the third one is.
You want to see it? It's right here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we talked about that, and this one, I think, is in the way of the pool. Which one?
No, it can't be, because it's beyond the setback.
No, I know, but the grading and then the excavation. You can't excavate within 6 feet of the.
I'm just wanting you to be a little bit more accurate about the trees that you're taking, and the size that these trees are that are being taken down. I think you mentioned 10s and 14s, and these are 24s and 30s.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't, whatever the trees are, it's listed on the plan. Okay? I'm not trying to sugarcoat it, I think that those trees are the ones that have to come out. We indicated which ones they were. If I misquoted the size, so.
Well, which are, the oak tree that's 30 inches is oak tree J, and then oak tree K, which is 24 inches. Where are those two? They're the ones around the side of the house?
Yeah.
They're over here. We have the pool equipment back over in here.
Was Lucille okay with, what was her suggestions?
Was the applicant should be requested to revise the tree removal summary noting size, species, condition, and reason for removal. The applicant should indicate the quantity of tree replacement as it relates to the tree removal, that is amount of caliber replacement. I mean, that was going to be my next question. What exactly are you proposing to replace or mitigate the loss of these trees and whatever shrubs you're taking out? What's the quantity and the type of shrubs and trees that you're
Well,
putting
that's on
back
the
in?
planting plan.
Well, could you just
Yeah.
elaborate upon it here?
Well, we have Amelanchier, which is a deciduous tree, it has a flower or whatever, more of a multi-stem tree, because,
And how tall does that grow to?
that'll be about 16 foot,
Okay.
maybe a little bit more, 20 at most.
And how many of those?
Just one.
Just one.
Of those. We have 6 Cornish Florida, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Size
That's
of
the
the-
dogwoods. We're putting them in at 4.5 inch caliper. Then we have one Quercus, a red oak, that's back in here, which, where am I? That's also a 4.5 inch caliper. Then we have some Norway spruce down in here, which are 12 to 14 foot. White spruce, I'm sorry, we use white spruce.
How tall do they get?
They get 70 feet tall,
Okay.
but we're not gonna see that.
No, I know that, but
I'm sorry. They do grow, I mean, in the relative scheme of things, they do grow relatively quick, but we're never gonna see them mature, full maturity. We also have,
I think that was one of our landscape consultant's comments was consideration should be given to replace 3 of the proposed white spruces with oaks or another canopy tree.
and I didn't meet out then for pool screening. So,
Are those the only 3 spruces on the site?
That is
you're
correct.
proposing? Okay.
now, I will keep in mind, it is privately owned land, but it's almost an inaccessible portion of that neighbor's land.
Yeah, that's Goldsmith, yes. I mean, well,
Yes.
formerly Goldsmith,
Right.
that's a deep line. But the question I have is though, as spruces grow, what happens to the lower branches
This
of
is
the
why we use
spruce?
spruces, is so they generally stay dense, all the way down. It's not like a pine that loses its lower needles. The reason why evergreen trees, lose a lot of their needles is because of the shading. And that's why the pines, the way they grow, where a spruce normally grows very conical. Where a pine, the white pines that generally send out their upper branches grow faster than the lower branches, shading the lower parts.
And so then what are the shrubs, like just inland, but between the spruces and the pool? What
Well,
types
we
of
have
shrubs
some
would be in there?
hollies. We also have, where do we, on the building, we have Manhattan euonymus, but that's not.
Well, how will they do, Craig, in light of the spruces that'll be there and the other canopy trees that are nearby? How will the holly do, and those shrubs that you're planting between the pool and the rear property?
We're using American holly because any other holly, the deer eat. And they're gonna do well, and as things mature, they can tolerate a little bit more shade. We think they're gonna get some sun because, we pulled them in further. I think there was a comment, concern of, what was it? Oh, the little princess spirea on the
Yeah.
slope. It was felt that maybe there's a substitution. We can put another shrub in there, Itea or something else is fine. That's not a problem. But we also, Manhattan euonymus, we have some Annabelle hydrangeas in here. We have sweet spire, which is Itea. We have some bayberry, which is a semi-evergreen, really more of an evergreen unless we have a real bad winter. And that's a broadleaf evergreen shrub that gets fairly tall.
And where are those on the site?
We have those in here in a mass and a drift, and we have a couple down in here. Actually, I'm wrong, these are the hydrangeas, but we have them right in here, and we have them back here.
The
One thing
hydrangeas will do all right there?
Yes, the Annabelles tolerate a little bit of shade. There will be some shading from these trees eventually. And then we have a viburnum, which gets fairly big. One thing I forgot to mention in the presentation, our prior submission showed a prefab spa underneath the overhang of the addition. This still has a prefab spa, but it'll be sitting on grade, right out here. That's what that square represents.
What is that?
I'm sorry?
Prefabricated spa, like.
Oh, a spa.
Yeah, hot tub.
Hot tub.
Yeah.
Pat, Hillary had asked what Lucille said about the tree, and she actually had commented on one of the oaks and said the 30-inch oak appears to be in conflict with the proposed construction of the relocated pool. The 24-inch oak, which is K on your thing, is also noted to be removed near the curved wall, but does not appear to be in conflict with the proposed construction. The applicant should clarify why it's being proposed to be removed.
And that's here, that's the 24-inch oak.
Yeah, that's the only one, actually, it's the only one that's there that in essence, anyone from the neighborhood, or it just would affect the appearance of the house. I understand what you're trying to do on the other side about, there's no point in putting a pool if it's going to be in shade all the time. I get that, and there's no neighbor behind you. But this 24 Oak doesn't seem to be impacting at all on your work, and it seems like a shame for that to disappear, just to disappear.
Do you identify the health of the trees, or the condition of the trees on your,
Yes,
on your chart? And so what's the condition of that tree that we're talking about? Which is K.
Well, I look at it as a landscape architect or whatever else, and I see some dead wood in it, okay? But that's very typical of an oak, especially an older oak. And that's affected by a drought 5 years ago kind of thing, or maybe the older construction, but I think any dieback that we see in that tree is not affected by the construction because it happened so long ago. So I think the tree recovered from that. We have not had an arborist out there. I think at our last meeting I said I would ultimately get an arborist out there. We did not. At this point, we can have it looked at. As a landscaper, architect, as a designer or whatever, representing a client, the client is definitely afraid of those 2 trees because they loom over the house. The branching and whatever, he's got, the little dead branches or whatever, which is typical of an oak that size. And when he says take it down, I'm not going to argue with him because I don't want the liability of saying it has to stay. I have no problem going back to him and say the town wants it to stay. What does he want to do? And if that's contingent on his approval, I'm sure I can convince him to do it.
Well, I think the point that we're raising too is you're going to get an arborist to take a look at it. Why don't you take a look at it, because maybe you have a justified situation there to take it down. But we'd like to know that, though.
Okay.
So if that
We'll do that.
Also, with the oak, Craig, with the oak tree, is it possible to just prune out the dead and open it up a little bit so you have some light?
Those oaks are branching fairly high. Those 2 are fairly high branching.
Well, the tree people can climb.
Yeah, no, it is. And so, yes, I already advised him to prune out the dead wood because that's the widow makers, as they say in the expression. Well, we'll when we have the arborist out, we'll have them look at it, both ways.
Yeah, it could be tip pruned or what have you.
Yeah, and we would do that. But, for the most part, it's fairly well open, so it's not like that tree is going to get caught in the wind. I think the wind flows through it. Have you been to the site? So you obviously know what I'm talking about when you're talking about those trees.
Also, Craig, back to the spruce and the holly. Are they going to be far enough away from each other so they don't interfere with the growth of each other?
Yes, we ultimately, they will be touching.
in years to
Ultimately,
come.
we want them touching. We're also trying to meet the code. We don't want to have a solid board fence at 6 feet high there. So, yes, we are allowing growth. They will touch, and it's not like 10 years down the road, it's within 5 that some of them will touch. Maybe not the spruces on the spacing that we have, but yes, on the hollies.
Well, I'm just concerned with the hollies interfering with the spruce and the spruce with the holly.
That's not going to be a problem.
Okay.
The holly will grow into the holly, the spruce will grow into the spruce ultimately.
But you also have them staggered too, like it's not in just row, so you.
That's correct.
Okay.
But
So
you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, no.
Spacing, a like kind will grow into each other.
So that when they grow in together, they're not going to die back on each other.
Correct.
So that you have a hole there, you have dead side of a tree if you have to remove one, and then you've got dead side of the other one. Not looking.
When we designed to try to create drifts of the plants,
Okay.
as we did, as I showed you where the not the blank here, the bayberry,
Right, can you speak into the mic?
Sure. As we did here, we created a drift of the bayberry. But we have plenty of room for growth, a number of years, but ultimately the hollies will grow into the hollies and these will grow in and touch.
But, to your point about visiting, it is a site that's just way down off the road. It's very secluded. And the only place that, let's say, the public can sort of see it is that corner right there.
The corner here.
Yeah, from there, looking down, and that's why this 24-inch oak is probably the only one that, at least for me, is in question, because if you clear that whole area, it's gonna be like a light slot right there between a very dense on the other side and this house. Whereas if that stays sort of more like what it is now, it's gonna give an even more secluded look or feel for the applicant, and also from the road, no one's gonna really know what's going on. So,
I think our proposed plan says nobody's gonna know what's going on too, with the screening that we have.
yeah,
I
the
think-
only thing I would say is like your site plan, I was trying to look at it based on this, and that big tree that you have right there, yeah, that's a 10-inch birch on this plan, I assume.
Oh, that's on the survey.
Yeah, and so I
That's
thought at
actually
first,
amazing.
from there, that was the 24-inch oak. But, I don't know if, I didn't look to see if that's what the real coverage of that 10-inch birch really is.
And I think that might have been mislabeled too on the survey, but we weren't, whatever it was, we were leaving that. These are, I assume, accurate from the surveyor. And those are the trees that we're referring to as the oaks, the larger ones.
Right, but do you think you represented this 10-inch oak correctly with that?
I mean, if you look at the width of the driveway being 12 feet, it's probably 16 feet, I don't know. I'll go out and measure that.
Oh, no,
canopy.
I'm just asking.
I think we did. I mean, the canopies were not shown on the thing. What we do when we draft it like this is we'll take the canopy, the diameter of the tree, the caliper or DBH of the tree, and we set our compass. If it's 16 foot, we kind of show like a 15-foot radius, So, that tree, when you're growing in a forest, they don't spread as much, so that's part of it. It could also have been severely pruned, who knows? So that one specific tree, I don't know.
Any other comments from the board?
No, I saw one of the questions was, or comments was about the height, the roof height.
Yeah, that was one of the comments from the engineer. A variance for height will be required. Is that still the case, Doug?
If the dormers go above when this house was built, it's 35 feet to the average. So if these dormers are over 35 feet proposed, then they have to go from lowest to highest, which is the today's code.
So do you want to take a look at it again to see?
He's just got to give us a new number, but it's,
Okay. It's close.
it goes from the patio door to the height of the new proposed dormer.
Oh, right, the low spot.
Right. The high spot, so the lowest spot would be the patio door on the far back,
Okay,
where when the building was built,
Yeah.
it was the average grade.
right.
Right. So you take the grade behind.
You're saying from that point to that point?
Right. It should be less than 35 feet.
I'm not gonna answer that, I don't.
No, you have to take a look at it.
Yeah, and I also wanted to ask, because I spent a lot of time on the coverage thing because it's so complicated. And I calculated a different way, but I think you're okay. The one thing I can't understand is why the size of the house went down from, the footprint of the house went down from 3460 to 3419. I didn't know that there was any reduction in the house. You see up at
I
the
think
top?
there was one
It's
square on here where it
3460.
shows 3460.
And then when you go to the box on the lower right, it says that the, even at 3460, you're okay.
On section 4, on the house in the driveway, it says 41 number,
It says
then-
3419,
and then it says a different number there. There you go.
Here it says 3419,
right, and the
Okay.
top.
and here it says 3460,
Correct.
that's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the original, built also was 3460. So I don't know how they got that, because you're not reducing the size of the house, are you?
Correct, that's correct.
Okay, there's a
Um,
mistake, but anyway. Okay.
I think that maybe it's
you
just
have
the
to
one
fix
number
those
in the
numbers.
chart and not on the plan. I don't know the answer, to be honest with you. But I will tell you what happened ultimately when we were talking about coverage, building, trying to separate it out, existing front walk and stoop, and FAR and all that stuff. There's these little boxes, and if you looked at a previous submission in this, we actually were a little bit more detailed oriented in calculating where the building is. And when, we also covered, and that portion of the coverage. That's not, I don't think, where it is. I think it might just be one number that's wrong, but we'll check that and double check.
And did you see our comments too? Did you get that?
I did, but I don't recall what.
There was, those were our comments,
Oh,
and we had some
engineer
drainage
stuff.
ones still, so.
I can't answer for the engineer, I was supposed to have that for this evening, but he did the work and he did all the calculations and reviewed and signed the drawings. One thing I'd like to continue to talk about is the FAR, because we are going to have to go to ZBA, and I'd like to go there as soon as we can, if that's possible. And so by saying that, we did this little report, you had asked, or a comment was written, I don't remember how it was done, but you had asked us to do the report and look at the FAR, and I think at the time you were also saying coverage, but we didn't think we were looking at the coverage issues at this point because we're not asking for a variance for that. We kind of limited it to the FAR. We went through each one of the, within 200 feet, and we did a couple of houses beyond, on the same street. And we created a spreadsheet, and we find that 2 of the houses exceed the allowable FAR, similar building, for their lots. Some of the houses have more coverage, but because of the size of their lot and everything else, it might be a little different. Now, if you looked at this in detail and you say, okay, Craig, why is it that I'm looking at 37 Northbrook Lane, and the number for the FAR is off by 60 feet or whatever, a couple of feet, than our thing. I wanted to compare apples to apples. I can't get in the other houses. So I took the best of my ability from the cards. And I did the same thing with our card. So what I'm saying is it's not the same exact
You use
number.
the heated square footage.
Yeah, it's all square footage.
Yeah, but you use the heated square footage, which is readily available.
And that's,
Common. That's what most people do.
and the information is highlighted. All the information we have on the chart is on the, each one of the tax cards, with the photo of the front of the house, and we highlighted the information that we took.
My only comment would, not my only comment, my first comment would be that the 2 houses that have FARs that are higher than yours have lots that are 5,000 square feet and 9,000 square feet smaller. And their FARs, slightly higher. They're .23 and .22, and yours is .2. And so if you're taking it, your heated square footage on the 20,000 square foot lot is 4,207, and yours is 5,137. It's going to, oh, sorry, 5,297. So it's 1,000 square feet more than that one. And on the other one, where where the FAR is greater than yours, that lot again is 24,000 square feet, and they're at 4,950, so they're closer to you in terms of the size of the lot, and in terms of the square footage.
Right. Well, the adjacent property is 600 square feet.
Yeah. I mean, the one that's closest to you too is number 35. You're 36. You're 36. So next door is 35, and that one is. That's the one that's 24,000 square foot lot, and the heated square space is 4,900 versus your 5,297. But then all the other FARs are, considerably lower. I mean,
Yeah.
they're all
And that's why
0.5,
we did it, and we
0.2.
show the square footage, because if you look at percentage, they're at 15 and plus %, and we're only at 9.5, 10. You know what I mean, for the overage. We're at 9.8.
Oh, those 2 lots.
Yeah, and so, and we did the calculation in accordance to your code,
Mhm.
and that was the only way I knew how to do it. So I don't, if you look at the size of the house for the lot, then there's a big difference. And we look even better. So I think that we had to go with the code and how you measure FAR to the best of our ability with the information we gathered from public documents.
Any comments from the board?
But we know that Legend Hollow is a subdivision that has very particular and special requirements.
Correct, but it's also it's an environmental subdivision, a planned unit development in a way, where they set aside land, so this could happen. And, and so how does one get that into account? I mean, that was given when they said 4,800 square feet. So that, I think that's all part of, it does come into play and has been considered.
The lot next door to you has a pool in the backyard too. That's, what, number 37 North Brook Lane?
Can I look at the map to see what
I think it would be
be the map
to the east of you.
yes, that's, what's their name? Gelman. Or
Gabe,
Gelman.
Gelman.
Yeah.
They, right, we saw them.
There we go.
They were here. They have a huge east conservation piece in the back.
And the house has that.
Did they?
So,
It was before the technical bulletin, for lack of a better word, decision.
Any other comments from any of the board members? No? Any comments from anyone in the public? No?
did you got Lucille's memo?
Yeah, I was going to give you a copy of that, Greg. Did you get the memo dated?
What's the last name?
It's dated March 2nd.
Months?
Yeah,
Oh, yes, I got that.
Dated March 2nd?
I don't know.
I gave it to him.
Okay, okay.
I got it.
So take a
Yeah,
look
I
at
got
that.
to see it.
Did we get anything from the tree committee on these trees?
From the tree committee? No. I think
Well,
this
the tree
is part of the
committee
site
will
plan.
review it.
Yeah. This is
You
part
mean
of the site
ECB?
plan.
You mean
ECB.
ECB? Maybe you mean the ECB?
No, I meant the tree committee.
Yeah.
Is the oak tree that we've been talking about something that we give a permit for to take down?
Well, I think because, how does it go? If the site plan is required, then the planning board has the jurisdiction over it.
Exactly, then it doesn't have to go before
To
the
the
tree
tree
preservation commission.
Just a procedural question.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Any comments regarding the variance from any of the board members in terms of the size of the house? No, I mean, I think it's not terribly over, and I think that also the location of the house, that it's so set back, that is, I had trouble finding the house at first. I had to look for the mailbox first, so. Yeah, I don't think that's an issue for any board members. I mean, it's just
Mailboxes don't help either.
Kind of set off by
No.
itself.
Yeah.
Doug or Ed, did you have any other comments? Mary Ann, did you have any other comments on this? Okay.
So it's allowable, though? I mean, the variance is allowable based on the restrictions of Legend Hollow, or is it?
Oh, yeah, that was the coverage thing we were getting
Okay.
at. And he's not seeking a variance for coverage, he made it smaller. He's
Right.
got to fix his numbers, that wasn't exactly right, but in any event, he's not going for a coverage variance. But FAR, there was no limitation on FAR because the FAR law didn't exist at the time this was approved.
Right.
So that's not an issue.
Okay.
But one thing I think you might want to clarify is the height. If in fact he's going
He's
to
gonna
need
need a
it.
variance.
Yeah, but if he's going to go to the zoning board, he shouldn't be going piecemeal.
We'll take care of it.
Yeah.
No, well, does any,
How's the height? The crown of the roof is not changing. It's just,
is the dormer being raised up?
If I can
yeah,
explain,
but it's not going to get higher than the,
correct. We're not, when you go,
you know, I'm just,
yeah, you need a
Trying to help
variance,
you out.
any change, I appreciate it, I recognize that. But the reason why we still may need a variance is any change in existing nonconformity requires, whether we're reducing it or enlarging it, requires a variance. So, we are not going any higher than the ridge of this building.
right, that's what I mean.
But it's measured by town code. It's from the lowest part of the adjacent to the building, to the highest part of the building. So technically, we're that's the building height, when you measure building height. But if this exceeds that requirement, the maximum height was 35 feet?
It's 35 feet from the lowest to the
So
highest.
if this exceeds 35 and is close, from that lowest part to the highest part, we are changing it because of the dormer roofing, and we're going to that ridge. So I understand the need. I'm hoping we don't need a variance. If we need a variance, we'll get a variance. But I would say, in the same manner as anything else, I don't think it exceeds, I don't think it changes our presentation.
Caesar, the reason this happened is height, just as coverage is now measured differently than when it was approved. Height is now measured differently from when it was approved.
Okay.
So it met the code at the time for height, but it may not
I
be
see.
current
Okay.
definition. So that's the disconnect.
So are the board members all right with sending the applicant to the ZBA at this point? Okay,
No problem.
I think you're okay to do that.
Okay.
Proceed to the ZBA once you figure out whether you have the height issue,
Right,
and then you'll be back here next month.
be back here. Okay.
Okay? I just respond to any questions
Yes, we'll address.
that John has or
Yep.
any of the other issues that. Were you also going to get the
The arborist.
the arborist to take a look at the tree? Okay.
Greg, would it be helpful?
Yes.
You're gonna say that anyway.
No, I wasn't gonna, but when I see it, I kind of laugh because 19 copies plus giving you the computer aid,
That's ridiculous.
we're worried about trees.
I totally agree.
That's part of the reason why we want sun on the pool, so we're not spending money on fuel and energy, wasting energy heating the pool. So,
We could continue this argument.
yeah.
All right, the next item on the agenda is 2016-09, Michael and Lori Fettner, 2 Cindy Lane.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Craig?
Yeah, go back.
Good evening. Stephen Bassini, the architect for Michael and Lori Fettner, the applicants, the owners of 2 Cindy Lane. They are here tonight to request a site plan approval for additions to a single-family residence. The house is located on Cindy Lane. It's a small cul-de-sac with a total of 5 addresses on it. It's very small. It's 1 through 5 Cindy Lane. They are the last one, second to last one as you're going around the circle. They are set back about 100 feet from the curb at Cindy Lane. They are the furthest house set back on that street out of the 5 that are there. The proposal is to add additions to the front of the house, to this southeast corner, in addition to the existing deck. The client's master plan, essentially, when they bought this house in 2007, was to put a pool in, which they did 2 years later with a patio, and then ultimately to put an addition in the house for a bedroom upstairs. What currently exists is it's a bow-level ranch house with 2 bedrooms upstairs. Their plan obviously was to move in, start a family, and eventually put the children upstairs with them. There is not that ability right now because there are 2 rooms downstairs and then one small bedroom here with the master bedroom next to it. So their plan was to put 2 bedrooms upstairs and then enlarge the master bedroom and make it a suite. There is a variance required, several variances required for this, and I'm just going to start by explaining that real quick. The coverage variance has been expressed this evening several times about the fact that in R40 zone, we required 12% coverage as the maximum. Several years ago, when this pool was added, it was 4,800 square feet minimum. That pool, the addition of that pool did not exceed that 4,800 square feet, and there was no requirement for a variance at the time. Now, not only is there a requirement for what we're proposing, but there's a requirement to actually legalize what was built back then, because it exceeded the 12% that is now current today.
No,
I'm sorry?
that's not true.
That would be pre-existing.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying my point is
You
that...
don't have to legalize it. All you
Yeah.
have to do is get a variance for anything over there.
Well, I'm explaining, you're right, thank you, all right. But what I'm explaining is that our coverage, our overage, is actually not expressed accurately because what we're adding is about 1,000 square feet of coverage, but in reality, what it looks like is we're about 1,400 square feet over what's allowed. Just want to express that we're not adding 1,400 square feet of coverage. The addition is taking place in the back here. This is actually a single-story, this is a second-story addition with it's open below, and it's shown in this plan here. Oops. This is a 2-story addition with this existing walkout from the basement coming out here and going to a walkway to the pool. This is actually a storage area that's being added. It is not long enough for a car. The intention is that the client currently has no area, no shed in this property to store any lawn equipment, any pool equipment, any chairs. So this was added as an addition for storage with an overhead door in the front. The intention that they can also pull a tractor in if they want to, or any larger chairs or tables. The bedroom will be added in the two bedrooms will be here, extended out the front of the house, and there will be the car garage actually that was taken over by this addition of the storage will be moved out to there. So there's still only a two-car garage proposed for the house. The drainage in the back, which was previously designed for the pool stormwater runoff, is just being modified and shifted over. The catch basins would still be there, they'd still pick up the water. And additional drainage was designed to pick up the stormwater for the additions in the back and also for the addition in the front. All utilities are not being disturbed, and there actually are no trees on this property that are being disturbed by this application. There is an ornamental tree off of the back of the house that will be protected. I did see in the Hans Engineering's memo that the tree protection detail will be required. We can provide that. The addition itself, on the ground floors, I just wanted to depict as well. You've got the bedroom here, you've got an office here, and then you've got these two bedrooms and the master up top. Obviously, they have a girl right now, and they would like to expand the family, as well as the fact that they have their parents coming over often and staying in the house. They do need the extra bedroom upstairs, as well as a two-car garage, which is being taken away by that. It's not a sizable addition, however, by codes of the coverage, obviously it exceeds. FAR it does not exceed. So what we're going to be expressing to the zoning board, hopefully, if we get there, and expressing to this board as well, is that the bulk of the house was not exceeded, the FAR is not exceeded. In fact, that it's set back about 100 feet back from the property line reduces the size, the appearance at least, of any additions that go on this house. The additions also take place off the southwest, which is buffered by, and we have in the survey actually, is buffered by a row of trees here. And this house actually is buffered by this row of trees here, and this row of trees here is buffering the addition of the deck and the back from anything else. So it would not be really very highly visible from the street, and definitely would not be visible from any of the neighbors. There were questions in Hans memo also about providing the FARs, or at least the sizes of the houses in the area. I received that today, and I quickly just printed out an area view for your explanation. This is the cul-de-sac. These are the 5 houses, 2 and 3. Can't see it here, but 4 and 5. This is the applicant's property here. This is Osceola Drive back in here, and these are the houses that immediately border the Fetner's house. This house is the one that's visible, most highly visible to the addition. This is bordered by a very high row of evergreens here. The FARs of the this house right here, 32 Osceola Drive, has an existing, off of the property cards once again, so it's not as accurate as Mr. Barron was saying, Ed Marin was saying. 32 Osceola Drive has a 6,292 square foot, you would assume, FAR, or at least building area. 30 Osceola Drive here has 7,844 square feet. The next largest on Cindy Lane would be number 5, has 3,863 square feet. All of these properties on Cindy Lane have the exact same lot size, 0.459 acres, essentially 19,000 square feet, 19,000 and change. This house right here has a 0.193 FAR, number 5. These all vary within 0.1 or 0.4, and the client's FAR would be proposed at 0.17. So it is within the range, definitely below the 2 closest houses to it behind it on Osceola, and it is less than the largest house on the street. The other variances are setback variances. Those are because the front addition is exceeding the front yard variance. However, the existing house, and correct me if I'm wrong, Marion, as well, we would require a variance for that, even though the existing house currently exceeds the setback. We're building again, and not increasing, but we're building once again in that setback. The deck would require the same situation. It's a rear yard variance. However, the existing deck currently exceeds the variance we're requesting. The only variance that would be moved for a yard setback would be on this garage right here. I'm sorry, on the storage shed right here, off of the garage. We require a small variance there. What we tried to do is, realizing that there would be a variance for area on this, for coverage, we did try to minimize any other variances we required, this one specifically. The intention originally was to come off of here and to put a addition off the side of the house, make it simple. But in essence, then we were really protruding into that side yard setback. So we did our best to minimize that, any variances here, with the anticipation that the largest variance requested would be the coverage. Are there any questions?
Just show them the addition on the back, on the north side, show them the setback line, so they get a feel for where the encroachment is on the north side.
The deck you're referring to?
Right.
This is the property line right here, I'm sorry, the setback line right here.
Yeah.
And there's the existing wood deck. Right now, it's 15 feet, the existing deck.
Yeah, just show them the proposed.
That.
Okay, so that also encroaches into the side yard setback.
Into the side yard setback. Yes.
Okay.
This is right here.
Yeah, I just want to make sure they understood that.
Okay, sure.
You spoke mostly about the existing deck, but what they care about tonight is the proposed deck.
Sure, I understand.
At what height or elevation is the proposed deck?
The proposed deck is the same as the existing deck, and it's about 9 feet off ground.
Okay. So,
Actually, it's a little less, I'm sorry, it's about 7 feet because it's slightly buried in the back.
Are you taking away the proposed deck?
No.
In the new deck?
No, it's tying into the existing and wrapping around.
so it's at an elevation of at about 103, right? 'Cause it looks
Oh, I'm
like-
sorry, off of grade.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, 96 is back here. Yeah, so it looks like it's about, be an elevation of 103.
Right.
Because I did drive down Osceola yesterday,
Okay.
and the one thing I did notice is the house is very visible from your neighbors who now are formerly Land and now are formerly Zoda.
Zoda?
Yeah. And there doesn't seem to be that much screening. The house is very visible, and I was trying to see, I didn't want to go into their property, so I couldn't really see what the relationship is to the deck. I think it would be helpful to have some visuals, some photographs of what the house looks like now from those two abutting properties to the north.
So photographs from the rear yard facing...
Actually, looking from the neighbors,
The other way,
looking
the other way.
into your yard, yes, and to see how much, if there's sufficient screening there, and if additional screening is needed, if, you know, and what is the visual impact of that deck?
From Osceola into the house rather than
I
from the
understand.
house out.
I understand.
And I think those two houses that are larger, they were probably built before code existed.
Correct. I believe so. I believe also this house was built
That house
before
was added
code.
on a long time ago.
Yeah, right. It was built before the code change as well.
Any other comments from any of the board members?
Yeah, I see where all the new roof areas are going to. You've got designed drainage. Where does the existing roof drainage go?
Existing drainage goes to daylight right now.
Goes to where?
Daylight?
Goes to daylight. Is that what you said?
Yes, daylight.
What is that? Just sheet flows?
It's going off into the leader. The leader, basically the leaders dump out onto the grade. It was previously, it's the original house. There was nothing at the time, no Coltex at the time, right? We're picking up the added,
Where are those downspouts?
off of the corner house here, and off the corner of the house here. We'll be picking this one up and putting it into there.
Currently doesn't impact any neighbors.
No, this flows down, like I said, this is the furthest house in the back. It flows down. It may ultimately flow into here, but it was these lots sort of drain onto each other at that point. It was previously approved that way.
When I saw this, and I saw all the variances you wanted, all I could think of was, boy, isn't there another way to do this? And so I would ask if you could at least show us why other options that don't need all these variances couldn't be done. And that might actually assist in working out the house. The bulk and stuff like that, I think the best, at least for me, is to have it so that I understand what the other houses around there, like what you described, but just on a drawing, so I can see, in essence, what the difference, what's next door, what's the FAR of that, the bulk and scale of it, just so you get a better picture of it. I mean, from what you're sounding like, it's you're within the range of what other people are. But I just look back and say, God, there's got to be a way that the existing house followed all these rules. You're not. and there's got to be a way, or show us that there isn't a way. I think it just needs a better understanding, at least from my end, of why I can't make this work without going through this setback needs a variance, this one needs, this one needs, this one needs. It's sort of just like, it looks like it could be done a little cleaner.
We actually, just to correct, thank you, I appreciate your comments. The building envelope, I'm not sure if you can see it on the plan, is here. And what you just mentioned, unless I misunderstood what you said, is that the existing house was able to be done without variances. Currently, right now, almost the entire house is within the front yard setback of this. There's the building envelope, so there's really not much that
Well,
can
when
be...
it was built, was it built out of context to the zoning when it was done?
It couldn't have been a 40 zone. It just couldn't have
probably
been.
went for.
It probably was,
There's
it probably
When I
did
just look
20.
at the setbacks, especially on the two side yards, they look like they went right to the limits. It seems like it was designed to fit within whatever the code was at that time. Whereas this time, it's sort of, you just kind of, well, we're just going to put it over here and get it all. We're just going to put it here, we're going to do that. Maybe there's a way to make it so that it doesn't have to go through all those hoops.
Well, I respect it. The only problem is that there's nowhere to actually build out the front of the house, the side of the house, or this end of the house without incurring a variance, and the only other way to go is here, which is their only backyard. It's their backyard, and it's basically where the pool currently exists. There's mechanical equipment here, and this is off of the kitchen. Basically, half of the house at the Battle of the Ranch, the first half of the house is kitchen and dining room.
I think if you're saying that there is no other way to do it, then you're going to have to convince us that what you're doing is sort of appropriate to what's around there. All I'm suggesting is perhaps there is a way, especially to the rear, that this thing could be worked out to mesh better with what the existing house is.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, if you saw a picture which I submitted of the existing house, there's meant to be a departure from that bi-level T111 siding with the low slope roof. It was meant to make it more interesting, to provide a departure from the roof line and to create a gable facade with a new entrance here. It was meant to not to exacerbate the existing visual of the house, was to change it, re-side it, create a fresh front element on this, change the garage doors, change the siding, and that is really the intention. I know you're not speaking of volume.
Separate things.
I understand you're talking about volume.
I get that, yeah.
Well, these are pictures, I also printed these once I received the memo today, and I'm sorry I didn't mount them on the board, but these are pictures of the existing houses in the area, and you'll see that as far as the bulk, if you can mind, the bulk of them, there's two pictures of the houses that are larger on the street that would compare possibly to the size of what this would become. I don't believe that there is another option. There's many options. Of course, we can go up. There's only 27 feet to the ridge of this house, to the proposed ridge of the house. But then we'd be creating a three-story structure. And there's the ability to go out towards the back, but then, like I said, this is a Battle of the Ranch. Half the house is the kitchen and the dining room. If I put anything out the back of the house other than what is shown, I am now blocking views from the kitchen, the living room, and everything out to the backyard, which I think is really what we're trying to create. We're trying to create a family backyard, something visible, a deck that they can enjoy in the back, and try and stay clear of anything visual in the backyard. I think we utilized this triangle of availability here. This is a triangle here that is a building envelope we can build in. We tried to utilize that primarily, and then what we can in the back here, and just what we can in the front without exacerbating any of the variances. I believe we tried to do as best we can to fit this in and still make the house usable and make the backyard appealing and usable as well. The front yard over here is not someplace that they utilized. Usually it's the backyard. That was really the master plan, but I'm not sure that I can present something that does not avoid any of these variances at this point. Coverage already, we mentioned, is going to be a variance regardless of what I do to the site.
Your setback is minimal, your side yard intrusion is minimal over here. You couldn't cut it back to reduce that side yard setback? You could do something with the deck to not have it intrude into the that side yard setback?
The reason that was done is because there's an existing access from the house right now. There's a boiler room right here off the corner. of the house, mechanical room, and there's very limited area in order to get the existing house coming through here into the storage area. That was one of the goals that we're trying to achieve, coming from the house into here instead of having to go out and come back into the storage room or go out here and come back into the storage room. There's a very small access of about 4 feet that provides us the availability to come into that area from there. And that's just a matter of the existing mechanical room, which we're not moving, and the setbacks outside. It could be achieved by shifting this in tighter, but then you end up putting a small little addition with a gable coming out, and just felt proportionately would look odd. I'm not saying that it's not possible, and if it's something that's not palatable, then we can discuss it. That was really one of the requirements of the program.
Well,
Are you talking about the other side?
What's that?
You're talking about the addition
I'm sorry.
on the south side of the house, correct?
Right here, this.
Yes.
Right, this is the 1.5 foot that exceeds.
Right, so if you cut that back, I mean, is it that width for a particular reason?
It's 11 feet only for the ability to have a overhead door in there with at least some sort of space on the side aesthetically to provide a better appearance on the outside. That's not, I can't say that that would kill the project to shift that. It was also affecting the bathroom upstairs and the fact that the width of this is governed by the width of what's below. There were several factors that lent it. We really cut that down. Originally it was about 12 feet in, and we realized it was not going to fly, so we reconfigured all of the additions to minimize it.
Well, I think what also would help too is that this site plan doesn't show in context where the existing structures are that are on the lots next door to it. So it's kind of like, how does this house relate to the houses immediately surrounding it?
You're right, the site plan does not. That's why I tried to print the area map to show you where this is. This row of trees right here, you see, this row of green, is this row of trees here. So you'll see the proximities. Essentially, this distance here of about 25 feet is equidistant to what the setback is of the house here. They essentially have a 25-yard setback as well, so 25-foot side yard setback. So they've achieved that, and that's why it's about 50 feet apart. The next closest house is One Cindy, which is considerably far away and down the hill, and then you've got these two larger homes in the back behind it on Osceola. And so the closest house is this one here, which is thoroughly screened.
And that's also the side yard that's facing
Correct. So
your clients.
the driveways both share kind of the same approach here, coming in off of Cindy.
Which side of the house is that driveway on?
Right here's the same side coming up here.
So it's on the north side of that
On this
house.
side, yeah.
Any other comments, questions from board members? No? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this matter? Doug or Ed, did you have any other additional comments?
No.
No?
No.
I think, as I said, I think I would like to see, I'd like to see what the site looks like from the neighbors to the north, looking in from their yards into your client's yard, where the deck is now and where the deck is proposed to be. Again, because this deck is going to be raised up, so you're about 7 to 10 feet off the ground, and if this elevation is at 96 or 95 feet, then you're at about 104 to about 104 feet. So standing on the deck, so how does that relate to looking into the neighbors' backyards?
The neighbor's backyards, I think you're referring to the houses, this one up here?
No, not that one.
And these up here?
I mean, when I drove
These
on
are-
Osceola, I could look right down the driveway of the neighbor to the north,
Right.
right down the driveway and see
Back
your
here,
client's
looking
house.
down.
Right.
This deck is essentially, like I said, at the same height as the existing one. It wouldn't be any higher, and ultimately these properties up here in this area slope up from it, so the relative height of this to the properties adjacent would be lower. 94 runs straight through here across, so it would be essentially at the same height as here. But these houses back in here would be higher than the deck.
Yeah, but so you're sloping down then from...
Yeah, over here in the front,
Here,
over by
sloping
Lem,
down.
on our formerly Lem.
Right, and again, that's what I'd like to see.
Okay, I
A
can-
photograph or two from that side, looking into your client's yard.
I can present that, if I may request, and definitely will present that, because this would be the smallest, I think, of the variants that would be required, and ultimately you have say on site plan approval. Is it possible that we can go to the 22nd ZBA to even see if we have a project before presenting back with you? I'll definitely provide whatever you need, but there's a roadblock that we need to get past.
How does the rest of the board feel about it?
I think even if you take photos from the other side, you're not going to get an accurate photo. You're going to be using these decks in the pool in the summer. There aren't any leaves on the trees now, so you're not going to get an accurate photo.
You're right. What I can do is at least show where the branches are, and we can have an idea of what the canopy might be that's shielding it. I can do the best right now.
But only this is also the worst condition too.
Worse because of the time of the year, is what you're saying.
Right,
That's
because
what you're
it's
saying, yes.
most visible.
Right. Maybe that would be the best case scenario then, taking the picture now.
Yes. The only thing is, I'd like to see what this looks like though, and I'd also like to see a chart of the coverages, you know, the chart that you presented in terms of the surrounding houses and what their coverages are compared to yours and the FARs are in a formal chart. All right, I know you've handwritten it up, but I'd like to see that first, I think, before we send you on to the ZBA, because if the ZBA says yes, then we're in a position where we really can't say no to you then.
Well, I thought that you would be, I'm sorry. It's your purview to approve the site plan.
I think better if I think the ZBA would rather hear from us too, that what our opinion is of the site plan before they go ahead with the variances. All right, so if we can get that information from you, is there anything else that, and the board members want to see at the next meeting?
I stand by what I said, so, second, yeah.
See if there's some other approach to solving.
There's a fresh look that you could do so that you can show either that it works or it doesn't, because I'm not so convinced, and I think it would be a win-win for everyone if you can somehow mitigate that. So that's nice.
If I can just say I do come prepared for the meeting. You're looking to prepare options that would avoid variances?
Correct. Okay. Figure out a way to make it so that, or to prove that you can't. That too. You can just, it can be very quick sketches that show, hey, this doesn't work because of this. This doesn't work because of that. Because I look at it, again, what I said before, so maybe it's just me.
I understand. Well, if there's, just so you understand, the largest variance is an unavoidable one. The most impacting is the coverage, because I already entering into it. So what you're talking about, which I will prepare for you, are options to try and avoid these 3 setbacks. And that's what I'll come forward with.
Okay, do that, so those 3 items then.
Understood.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I did.
You did?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
All right, the next item is 2016-08 Sally Hammond, 8 Castle Road.
My name is Nancy Thiel. I'm the architect for Sally Hammond. I'm here with a colleague. And our project at 8 Castle Road is redesigning an entry stair that the existing condition is unsafe and not as comfortable as it could be. So we've added some treads and reconfigured the stair. So the access is much easier, and we also are able to add a handrail going from the existing to the proposed. And we got a letter from Doug today, and we did the calculation you asked us to do. And to your point, Doug was asking how much we are encroaching
into the planting area right next to the stair. And Doug, we're going to be encroaching 26 feet, and we are coming away from the driveway area 21 feet. So to your point, we are exceeding, or we are adding 5 square feet to the hardscape, to the coverage. And then the other thing that you asked us to do was to help understand the current coverage. And what we did was we took the plan and we, the survey, and we used the dimensions on the survey to calculate, for instance, all the areas of all the walls. We're not sure if that matches exactly what's on site. We're assuming it does. The surveyor has been working at this property for many years now. So on this drawing, we have designated the walls and the exact calculations for those areas, and it's all broken down. It's not color, but it points to each area and the calculation for that.
What was the total?
Do we have the total for that?
What we
Can
produced
you
was
speak into the
just...
microphone, please? Introduce yourself, I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm Julie Hanselman Davies. I'm an architect. To answer your question, we, in the CAD drawing, calculated very specifically all the different walls and walkways and terraces. And so we produced that document quickly today to show that we had done our homework. But the calculations that we presented in the paperwork are drawn directly from the site plan. So it was what we could do today, but we had done our homework to prepare the paperwork.
So we would have to
I don't
redo
know.
this area.
What was it, what was the number? Is it a different number?
No, the numbers
The
are
same
the
number as you submitted?
The existing number that we got for actual coverage is 9,598 square feet, which is existing non-conforming. But now, with what you asked for today, we would adjust that number a little bit. So we will resubmit those. Is that answering your question?
But did you recalculate it, check that it is 9,000?
We have not done that. All we did was do that diagram right around the stair that you had asked for, and then we have that other document, but we haven't tallied it up again, and we will provide that. It's a small project.
Any comments from any of the board members, or did you have something
No,
to
I
say?
was just curious, because if we can resolve that this is a very small project to move it along, that's all. Is that possible to get that done tomorrow?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we can get that.
It's just an option for your board.
Just send it to me.
Approve it subject to
If
you're getting.
Yes.
Or just get it to the ZBA, that's,
Oh, they have to go to the ZBA too, okay. Does anybody have any issue with their going to the ZBA with this at this point?
Yeah. Count them on one hand.
Couldn't reduce that?
Try as we might.
All right, so I guess you can go to the ZBA within that. You'll have to come back here,
Yeah,
and so we'll have
unfortunately,
to
but
get through the ZBA, then
Okay, and then we come
We'll be able
back
to
here
take care
because
of
we're
it.
submitting new information,
Right.
but we can go to the ZBA.
Right.
Terrific, thank you very much, everyone.
The next item on the agenda is 2016-07 Alcoa Revocable Living Trust, 17 Meadow Way.
Good evening, I'm William Lockenell from the firm of Hudson Engineering and Consulting, Elmsford, New York. I'm here to introduce this project this evening, but I will ask your forbearance. The landscape architecture, and this is a landscape architecture-driven plan, had an emergency situation and could not be here tonight. What we're proposing to do, or what she is proposing to do at this point, is it's an existing little over 2-acre parcel located at 17 Meadow Way. The proposal is primarily to regrade an existing paved driveway to make it a more amenable slope and an easier way to traverse through the property, put in a gravel parking pad at this location, and then to come up through here. And what they've done basically is put in a gravel parking area located pretty much so in this area. They could also be used for entertaining and people or whatnot. It's a versatile kind of use. All the existing features on the site, the pool, the cabana, the driveway, except for this driveway extension here, which is a gravel one, is all existing impervious area. What we received throughout the month, we had actually received a draft review from HANA Engineering, of which we've addressed a good number of comments. There were 30 comments on the initial one. We did send drawings back to them. We did receive yesterday those same comments listed plus an additional 10 comments. What we'd like to do is address those comments all together as a package, figure out the coverage. I think there's a misconception concerning the coverage on the site, what's existing, what's proposed. This crosshatch area here is actually an existing roof. The amount of impervious we're adding is basically in the form of, again, landscape features, steps, again, steps placed in between grass, and actually these little patio-type areas that mostly are infilled with grass or plantings. Again, they would be explained in detail by the landscape architect. But again, because of this, and in reading the memorandum on some of the items, there seems to be confusion of what is existing, what is proposed. So we would like to take that month to figure that all out, to clarify it, to meet with the village staff, and then come back before you next month.
Any comments?
Yes. The plan I have said, that little driveway extension, no, up there, yeah. Says it's asphalt on this plan, unless,
What happened is that in the interim period, when we got the first round of draft comments from HANA Engineering, we actually made changes on the plan. This plan was prepared last week and sent to them.
and the concrete driveway that says, says it's concrete, along the property line, right that. You said it's being regraded, you're gonna rip the concrete out?
We're gonna rip out what's there and change it for the grades. She has proposed grades in here so that she could present it.
Now, that's
sort of
all,
parking.
that's all downhill to the left,
This
to
is
the
all
road?
downhill.
Do you have any silt protection so the mud doesn't wash out onto the
Well,
road?
there's a full erosion control plan that would
Yeah, I
come
know,
in with
but
it.
for the driveway, I see it goes all the way around the property, but what's to stop when you're ripping up the concrete and what's there? Where your pen is, what's there?
What we do is when you remove this asphalt here, okay, and what you can do is you basically, because you have a brook that runs through here.
Yeah.
And what you do is you put in a diverting
One
stone
can do,
berm.
but you have to show one
Oh,
can
no,
do
it
on
will
the plans.
definitely be shown. And then what you do is you put down the gravel bed and then you do your
Yeah,
paving.
but it
I
doesn't,
think what you were saying before is that, in essence, your drawings were confusing and need attention, and you're coming back with a more comprehensive set that you're gonna work out with the staff.
I agree with what you said, except for the word confusing. I think there was a misconception of what, everything was labeled, but I think when one is looking at this, there was the perception that more impervious was being added than actually is being added. There are no new structures on the site.
I can just tell you firsthand that I was confused about what you were adding and not.
Then it'll be clarified.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, especially in the rear yard, the engineering plan is missing quite a bit of
Yes.
the landscape architect's information.
Well, that was
Including
one of
that
the
decorative
comments.
feature on the lawn. Is
Without question. And that was one of the comments that were made, and also the
Yeah.
fact that, based on this plan, she did not update her
Right.
plan. So when it comes back, it'll be more comprehensive, and the two plans will jive.
And do you understand, just so the board understands, there is a stream where you start the driveway improvements right there. So there's going to be a wetlands watercourse application as well.
That was one of the comments. in the-
I just want to make sure the board.
Oh, okay.
You're also showing considerably more grading now all around the front of the house than is on the existing plan, and
This is-
considerably more trees that are being removed.
That's why it was key critical that the landscape architect came tonight, because this is her proposed grading.
There seems
Just
to
gotta
be a
work
lot
on
of,
it.
a lot of trees being removed.
Yeah.
that-
Yeah.
And, you know,
It's not gonna work.
visiting the site, it just didn't seem to be seem to be too many trees for what you're doing to be
Understand.
removed, and it's an environmental disaster.
I will relay that message.
Have you seen the memo from Lucille Munz, our landscape
No,
architect?
that I
Why
do
don't you
not.
take this?
Thank you. That would be most
So
helpful.
share that with the landscape architect. There's quite a number of issues there I think are a concern for me and for probably the other board members too.
On that asphalt slash impervious driveway up there, north, top of the page, there's a retaining wall that's gonna how high is that retaining wall that's gonna be moved? No, up there, right under the new proposed driveway.
This here.
No, up, keep going, right there, to your right.
This here?
There's a stone wall that's shown
That's right.
underneath.
Underneath,
yes.
right here.
No, it's a straight wall, yeah.
Right in here somewhere, at least on the plan I have.
That's, no, again, the plans have been revised. That's why there's the confusion. I know, you're waving at me to say goodbye.
If it's an existing wall,
Yeah.
it's there.
Right, but it was being removed for the parking purpose.
That's there. Is the new slope gonna be steep? Instead of a 6-foot retaining wall or a 1-foot retaining wall?
There's a wall located right here. The bottom elevation is at 484, and the top elevation here
Is at 488. So it's a 4-foot wall.
I think those will all be questions that the landscape
Without
architect
question. But instead of just coming and saying tonight, by handing in, we're not coming to the meeting, I come introduce the project, and then we'll bring it all together.
At least you got some
comments.
Well, no, we wanted the comment, man, definitely wanted the comments.
And you received, you got Doug's latest.
Definitely, we got that.
Any other comments from any of the board members?
The only thing I would do is if, maybe you should go back to the original minutes when we approved this, because I remember when we worked on that driveway really hard. We worked on, because it's the slope and how high the house was and why the driveway does what it does, and there was a turnaround lane and it's a water course. There was a lot of thought going into the whole, that you
We'll
might
take it under
wanna
advisement, and we'll get the minutes.
revisit.
They're on the village's website.
Okay.
Any comments from anyone in the audience? Janet?
Thank you. Jan Blair from the Environmental Conservation Board. We did send our comments, and in addition to the comments that were sent out, we did agree at our meeting last week that there were an awful lot of trees coming down, and we needed a little more detail, which neglected to go into that report that we sent out. So, just wanted to make you aware of the fact that we are concerned about what's going on in the backyard and the trees.
And
Thank
front
you.
yard in the trees too.
And front yard.
Anything else?
No, I think that's it. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we adjourn,
Light bulb went off.
just one item. I think do you have any idea when Bernardo's going to be coming back?
Well, they'll be back next month.
They will.
Yes, the only reason they weren't back this time was the elevations weren't completed, and they knew that was important to the board, but I'm sure they'll be back next month. They did,
And you did give them, Mary Ann, our comments regarding the EAF for them to add to the part 1 of the EAF, correct? I mean, you would ask
yeah.
for the comments and I'd sent them to you and then you would get,
Well, I
you relate
had
them.
it revised because the EAF had to be revised
Right.
before we circulated the notice of intent to be
Okay,
lead
that's right.
agency, which I did, like, if not the next morning, Friday morning. So
Okay.
that's
That's
been
all
out.
taken care of. Okay.
That's been out. So they'll be back with the elevations. They did go before the ARB, and the ARB made the threshold finding that the house was of local and historic significance, so they get the coverage bonus. But the two things the board could do tonight, and I would recommend, is to kind of move the process along. The 30 days for lead agency hasn't quite expired. It'll expire, I think, next Monday, but we haven't gotten any objections. So if the board wanted to vote tonight to be lead agency, unless there's any objections, by Monday, you could do that tonight. And then the other thing is, in their submission last month, there was traffic study, and I would recommend that we send that traffic study on to AKRF to review. There'll be additional things that'll have to be reviewed, maybe, like circulation, traffic circulation and stuff like that, which could change. But in the meantime, they have their numbers and the, any traffic backup and stuff. So right now, it's just sitting in the file. And if we send it to AKRF, it gives them some time to look at it. So if you want to recommend that, I would do that.
Did they look at it or do any traffic analysis for the Board of Trustees for this project?
No, there was
they
not a
did.
traffic analysis
No.
done, because, no, there wasn't a traffic analysis done, because the changes that the board made did not increase what would be the number of units.
Right, but their
that would be there.
AKRF was involved in the decision-making. They were consultants to the Board of Trustees.
Yes,
Right.
for some things, but they didn't look at everything, and traffic was not one of the things that was looked at.
All right, so does the board want to take action in declaring ourselves lead agency for, can I have a motion?
You. Sure. Clear as to what we're making.
Well, regarding the DiNardo application, the planning board will declare itself as lead agency for the environmental review for the DiNardo application for the Fee property and the McCon property.
Assuming no objections.
Assuming there are no objections to it. That's the motion.
Yeah, motion.
Okay, so moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the second item, does anybody have any problem with sending the traffic study on to AKRF? That's only one element
No.
to be looked at, but, yeah, so I guess you, no issue, so I guess we can
Okay,
do that
I'll
and
do
send that on. And I think that, you want us to take just 2 minutes and start talking about some of the issues that we want to take a look at when this plan comes back. I'm sorry, not that we want to look at when the plan comes back, but issues that we will have in terms of the environmental review. There are specific items that we'll be looking at, such as traffic, circulation, parking on the site, stormwater management, visual impact, and any others that any of the board members may have.
I think for the visual, we really covered it for the most part at the last meeting.
Yeah.
I think we covered a lot of that at the last meeting.
And there was issues with the stormwater retention basins in terms
Right,
of
yeah.
where they're located.
And within the buffer, right?
We have them to work on.
So with the visual, the stormwater, the traffic, the parking on Broadway.
You mean the loss of parking?
Yes. Also the parking on the site too.
Like,
Visitor parking.
Visitor parking.
Fire access,
Fire access.
hydrant location.
The roadway?
Roadway width.
Roadway width.
That probably,
Maneuverability.
that'll be hit with fire access. Circulation.
Grading, remember that they were talking about apparently having 3 stories there. And
Off
on
the
basic,
back.
yeah,
Yeah.
similar to what the other applicant did,
South side.
but even closer to the
To the
took
edge.
down
to the edge, just so I'm clear.
You know, Pat, the visual, when we were talking with them, was as you're driving north and looking up
Yes.
Station Road, I made a point of when I'm driving south, you can,
You can see the
the
house.
current building
right?
is very obvious, so
Yeah.
the property is obvious when you're heading south also, so we concentrated on when you're heading north on Broadway, so I have a question also for when you're heading south on Broadway.
Well, if that's not, do you want me to communicate that? If
You know
they're
what, before you do that, let me write up,
Just
I'll write up what we're
those
talking about
things are all
tonight.
covered.
Yeah, I'll write what we're talking about tonight, I want to circulate it to the board and then have
Okay.
them have an opportunity to
Okay.
add.
Yeah, I don't think, we didn't discuss coming south on
South on
Broadway.
No, that's what I'm saying, it's just as long as they're preparing the elevations, tell them to do it from
Right.
the south as well.
So I'll get this, what's today's Wednesday, I'll get this to you by Friday, I'll send it out to everybody tomorrow. If you can all comment on it, get it back to me, and then I'll send it to Mary Ann by
Mhm.
Friday.
They're gonna do the elevation from the aqueduct too, let me have them do.
This kind of.
For continuous, we're talking about. So we want elevations from all around.
It's very bright because of all the clearing. Others now, pre-existing house and all the trees, it's all the
Landscaping, buffering and landscaping.
less than what's. So if you look at their video, you'll see that it's like.
All right, so I've got visual from the visual on it, and the visual from all sides of the property. Stormwater management, the traffic and parking on Broadway, visitor parking, fire access and roadway width and circulation through the site,
You're running out of paper.
pedestrian I got it.
You can have more. 3 more minutes.
Trying to stretch it.
Just make sure you know I'm on
I'm getting there, getting there.
Who's got the money? I see, I'm good. 8:45.
Yeah, 8:45, I told him 8:46.
He's killing me.
Well, if you
I'm
comment-
gonna let you, I'm
comment
gonna let you
every
win.
time.
I'm gonna let you win it. I want to keep you happy. Pedestrian circulation, I think, grading, okay, we got the grading, south and Broadway elevations, all right, elevations from all around, and the buffering landscaping. So I'll put this together. I'll send it around to everybody
But I
tomorrow.
hope it was also, it was pretty, I think we said it fairly succinctly to them, it's like, it isn't that what they're showing is to go, it's not set in stone, but we asked them specifically to deal with the visual impact, and that might mean changes to what they were originally. So I hope they're thinking in those ways,
I can make that one.
right? Because all of a sudden, if you get too far ahead, it's hard to go backwards.
Okay. Got it. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
So moved.
Well, there were just a couple other things I wanted to mention. Meeting is adjourned.